Hey guys, welcome back. Drip and Farm for Property. I'm your host, Drip Coach, and let's jump right into it. So today I wanted to dig into the minting, inflation, supply, how to calculate the prices, these kinds of things, because again, I mentioned this in the previous video and that's what made me want to go a little deeper in here. I'm going to show you why this doesn't actually matter in regards to price appreciation. So yes, this is a good thing because as long as we eventually get the minting underway, then the token is no longer inflationary. So simple supply and demand, the more of something that you have, the less valuable it becomes. When you have something restricted and limited, it becomes more valuable. So yes, this is important, but I just want to show you with actual numbers on what we're actually looking at for price appreciation and what actual drip matters in what contracts, and then how quickly things can kind of get out of control and how many people, you know, it could take to just send things back down, basically. So taking profits, things of that nature. Because remember, like the previous video, shout out to DG, what he said, it's lopsided. So there is a vast majority of the community that didn't make any profits at all and got wrecked, and they're looking to get something out of it. And so any pump that comes into the drip token, if there's not enough liquidity, I'm going to show you how quickly it can basically come back down to a cheaper amount, as well as how quickly it can take off as well. So let's take a look here. So first and foremost, got to come over here to BSC scan, because this is the easiest place, or it's not the easiest. This is the most concrete place you're gonna be able to get information. I'm currently showing old values because I made this calculations earlier and I haven't refreshed this page, so I don't want to mess it up. But when you come look at the drip token and then you come to the holders of the drip token, that's where you're going to find everyone and every contract that has the drip token in its possession. So right here we have Wrap Drip, you have the kitchen sink, you have Pancake Swap. I've labeled mine. I highly recommend if you are getting into crypto, blockchain, start learning how to read the blockchain, and the quickest way to do that is just start adding names to contracts. I mentioned this before. So kitchen sink, this is Pancake Swap basically, and this is the native DEX, and this is Pancake Swap. So first and foremost, if you're looking at the drip price, right? So remember, drip by itself has no inherent value outside of within the drip ecosystem. At the end of the day, we all want to be able to turn that drip into our actual currency that we transact with in our native country. And to get it into that, you got to have some form of a token, specifically more so probably a coin that has exchange liquidity in it. And what I mean by that is these two contracts here. This one has BNB, and we all know that BNB is the coin on the Binance Smart Chain used for gas, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff in there. And then of course BUSD, which is a stable token on the Binance Smart Chain and other chains as well, but it's phasing out, but that doesn't matter. But the point of this is that these two are the only contracts that actually create the drip price. So no matter what you do in the kitchen sink, Wrap Drip, or any other contract that might come out, at the end of the day, you have to interact with one of these two to get money out that you can actually use outside of DGen crypto side stuff. Now there could be some other liquidity pools that are created elsewhere, but for the most part, this is where the value of the drip token is coming. I know there's some on Pulse and whatnot, but essentially those just become arbitrage opportunities that have a lot less liquidity and lower supply, so they're more volatile, and there's no way you'll be able to trade a large amount of drip in there. So I'm not calculating those in this example. I just want you guys to understand that, because if you're familiar, I talked about this way back when, but for automated market makers and liquidity pools, basically, they have to maintain a ratio of the tokens. So right now, this one has 9 million. Let's go here. Actually, it's easier to look at. So right now, this, or earlier, this had 980 BNB. And then in the contract, it also has X amount of drip tokens. Where is that? Well, it's not showing it in here, so they're in drops. But this 980 BNB balance also contains 9,128,000 drip tokens. So when you interact with this contract and you either buy drip tokens from it, it will decrease the number of tokens it's holding and then increase the BNB that you gave it. Or if you sell into it, it's going to decrease the BNB balance, and then you're going to add your drip tokens to the balance here. It maintains that ratio, and then that affects the price. So the price is for this to determine that is basically BNB times the current price, which you see up here, and then divided by the total number of drip tokens in this contract, which again, as of this screenshot that I had earlier, is 9 million. And that gives us like the 3 cents or whatever. And the exact same thing happens with PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap, you see it's holding 211,000 BUSD. And then it's also holding the 6.298 million drip tokens. And you get the exact same thing there. Now, what I wanted to show you guys from in this analogy for like liquidity and why that's all that matters. These other contracts don't actually matter, nor does the liquid drip in people's wallets. It matters once it's moved in or out of these contracts, these two. But to get the actual dollar value that we're looking at, you have to eventually come back and interact with these two. So if you go into wrap drip and you take your drip, let's say you buy it from PancakeSwap, you have drip in your wallet, then you go over to wrap drip. Well, that wrap drip contract takes your drip, deposits into the contract, and then gives you in exchange a wrap drip token. Well, that wrap drip token you can't do anything with. You can't send that to Coinbase or Binance or anywhere else and actually exchange it for your currency of your country. You have to come back and interact with one of these contracts again that have a lot of liquidity, and that's going to be BUSD or BNB. So I hope I made that clear as mud. So what we have here, back to the spreadsheets I haven't had up for a while, but it's just to show you a simple calculation. Basically, it's more complex than this because every time a buy and sell happens, you're moving from one side of the equation to the other, and it's dynamic. So you would never be able to sell a bunch or buy a bunch at one fixed price, depending on the amount of liquidity. But what I have here is the 211,000 BUSD that's on the drip BUSD contract on PancakeSwap, the total supply that's there. Then I have the drip BNB that's on the fountain, the native DEX. And then I have the supply that's there. Then I added those two up together and I get a drip price of 3.36 cents, just over 3.5 cents, right? So to get that, again, very simple. You add the two dollar values together and divide it by the total drip supply. That's all this says. A2C2 divided by E2. Now, granted, these are not together, but it's just so that you guys could see. Because remember, we have two different contracts, so you can interact with each one depending on the price and whatever your goals are. So in this example, I took all of that total dollar value, which is this one and this one, and added it together and just assumed, let's just say it's all in BUSD only. And then I did the same thing with BNB only, right? Because this is going to help you understand what will happen when we start getting more and more transactions on the drip token and why only this supply matters. Only the supply that's in those two contracts. The minting itself doesn't matter if it slows down and or speeds up. Speeding up, or like we had before with the fountain, just made it harder for us to get this fixed. But now that it's been turned off, eventually this total number of drip that we have here will stop, and as we're making transactions and sending to other wallets, it'll get locked into other contracts. That is the good news. Then eventually, maybe more and more could get burned, and that will reduce this total supply. But at the end of the day, the only two numbers again that matter are these two. That's it, because that's where our liquidity is actually stored. So when you're looking at this, you'll see this calculation here. What I did here is show you a transaction of, let's just say there was one transaction for 1 million drip. So what would happen is, let's just say somebody had 1 million drip which we do see some whales like that, but they would never sell that much at one go. I doubt it, because they would want to make better profits. But let's just assume 1 million drip was sent in one transaction. Well, that would increase the supply in this contract to 16 million, and then that would decrease the total amount of BUSD by that equivalent of 1 million drip at the 3.5 cent price, and whatever that is, I don't remember the total number, but once you subtract that, the new drip price becomes this. We do that again with a transaction 2 for the exact same amount. You get this, and let's just zoom on down. You'll see what I'm getting at. So after 5 transactions, 5 million drip has dropped to 2 cents, and there is now 20 million in this one contract. Remember, I made this simplistic. This of course would be across 2 contracts, and of course we have other places in the ecosystem and cross chain, but this is just simplicity to show you how the contract balance and the amount of liquidity in that contract is king. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. Now that's the simplistic BUSD. Here's where it gets a little interesting, because we have BNB. So what I did here is show you at our current, let's just at BNB price at 350. So we're not quite at that price right now. BNB is like 337, but if we went to 350, it would be 3.5 cents. And then I have some values here just to show you what happens if the only thing that changes is BNB. And this is what we had in the previous bull run. It was a little higher than this, like 670, I think. But simple math, if we're sitting at around 300 and then we go to 600, it's going to double the drip price. Now this again is where it gets interesting, because you have the same amount of BNB, but BNB is worth more and your same amount of drip tokens. So let's look at those same 1 million transactions over the course of 5 transactions. If the BNB price is $600 and you sell 1 million drip, well, that's going to cause 101 BNB to come out of the contract and then affect the price accordingly. And then we do the same thing for number 2. We now have a less amount of BNB that is required to come out due to the fact of the price changing to a cheaper price. So BNB is at still the $600 price, but in order to, since the price of drip has now dropped, you don't need as much BNB to meet that 1 million drip obligation. And then of course that happens, that continues to depreciate over time. So it gets less and less BNB come out as of course the price gets cheaper. You guys know that. But here's what's interesting to note about that is that the total amount of BNB that came out, 404 and 300 total BNB, and a loss of $181,000 in liquidity from that contract. So what I'm trying to show you here is how the BNB price affects essentially the amount of BNB that will come out and then that liquidity. So when I was mentioning before in the previous video about what happened with Warren and Pulse, if drip jumps up, then there are clearly going to be people looking to take profits because their drip is now worth more, even though they have the same amount. So they didn't have the dollar cost average, they didn't have to do anything. And then they're going to want to take profits. And at those higher prices, it's going to drop the amount of liquidity faster because you're taking more dollar value equivalent out. And then if all of a sudden we took out 404 BNB and then BNB drops back to $400, $500, you can imagine what that's going to do to the drip price from here. But let's look at the same thing for $500 drip. So same 5 transactions, it takes now again less BNB, or more BNB, I'm sorry, because you're looking at a lower BNB price to meet that debt obligation that you're selling out. So now our total here ends up being a total of 436 BNB and 314 coming out. And then the same thing, it increases with our $400 drip price, $400 BNB price. So the fact that we have 2 liquidity pools is actually a good thing because arbitrage opportunity will allow them to balance themselves out. But as you can see, as the drip price increases, it eventually requires less BNB to meet that dollar value equivalent, of course, because BNB is higher. But all the while, you got to imagine at any of these incremental levels, more people will be selling. So it'll be more and more transactions going into these different contracts. So again, the whole point of this video was just to show you guys how these two contracts is what really matters. The minting narrative, be it up or down, only matters in the long run of how volatile it will actually be with people selling any sort of pump opportunity. But this also is good because you will have people putting more of that drip into these other contracts. So instead of it being liquid, it could be locked up in these contracts, and that's what we want. If it's locked in the contracts, then there's a less likelihood of crashing the price. And in order for the price to sustain or increase, or people to get in, they would have to buy drip off of one of these contracts. So that's the actual goal we want. Right now, we are looking at, let's see, we click this right here, right? We're looking at, oh, it doesn't do it easily. I thought it did. These aren't labeled anymore. I think I did the math before, 20% or something like that. But ideally, you'd like to have the majority of the tokens in contracts, because that means for anyone to get in, they have to buy it and affect the price, and that's going to cause price appreciation. And the less amount that is in people's wallets, then the less likelihood of them being able to crash the price. Again, hopefully this made some sense, gave you some clarity, some insight, some understanding of why liquidity is king and everything else is just noise. And if I didn't explain anything correctly, or you got some questions, let me know. It's already 15 minutes long, but that's all I got. Smash that HBO special, help a brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below, and until next time, lift daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.
Want to pay your in real life bills with crypto? How about send crypto directly to anyone with a bank account? SPRITZ Finance is a decentralized solution to be your own bank and connect your crypto earnings to real world bills and payments. They do not take custody of your assets and allow support on multiple blockchains and Web3 wallets. Sign up below using my referral link and you will get $50 back when you make your first $50 bill payment with crypto. Additionally, I will be using referral bonuses to airdrop, donate, or burn based on community feedback. Sign up now.